Hey guys, gizmoddict here, and this is the Realme 6. This phone has got a 90Hz display, 64 megapixel quad camera, you've got MediaTek Helio G90T, and you also have 30-watt fast charging. So the question is the Realme 6 actually as good as it seems? Well, I'm gonna answer that question in this video because I've been using the Realme 6 for more than a month now, and in this video I'm gonna let you know everything that I want to say about this phone. So without wasting any more time, let's get started with my review of the Realme 6. So I'm going to start off this review by talking about the most eye-catchy part about the Realme 6, which is the display. Realme 6 is the first phone in this segment which has a 90Hz display, and I really want to give props to Realme for bringing that. Realme has bought a lot of first features in the budget phones. Initially they bought in the pop-up camera, then they bought in the 64 megapixel camera, then they were the first ones to bring fast charging in these segments, and then now they've bought in the 90Hz display. So the panel on the Realme 6 is a 90Hz LCD display, and if I talk about the quality of the display, it's as good as any other LCD panels that you get in this price segment. It won't be as good as the Samsung M21 or the M31 because those phones get an AMOLED displays and the quality is way too good for watching content on movies and things like that. The IPS display on the Realme 6 is not that bad. I'm showing you it right in front of the Redmi Note 9 Pro, and you can see both of these panels are very good. So the display quality is good, and the added advantage on the Realme 6 is that you get that 90Hz refresh rate. Now initially I was a little bit skeptical because I didn't think that the Helio G90T will be able to handle it. But surprisingly, the 90Hz display is good. The experience is good. You can either keep it on auto, so the phone will decide when it wants to be on 60 or when it wants to be on 90, or you can keep it constantly at 90Hz like I did. I personally didn't feel any lags or stuttering while using the phone, and the 90Hz display works really well when you're scrolling through your Twitter feed or just switching between apps or when you're playing games that support 90 FPS. Hey guys, just a small update there. I made a little bit of a mistake. So the thing is, I tried out a couple of games that support 90Hz or 120Hz, and the only game that I found that was working was Riptide GP Renegade. I tried Dead Trigger 2, and even though the game shows 90 FPS, it's only working up to 60 FPS. I also tried Mortal Kombat X, I also tried Alto's Adventure, but all of these games were only working till 60 FPS and I couldn't get 90 FPS working on it. The only game that I got working on it was Riptide GP Renegade. But basically the point is you can take advantage of that 90Hz display, and this is something very new that you initially only used to experience on flagship phones. So props to Realme for this display, it's really good. The only problem that I have with this phone is that the Widevine L1 certification does not work properly. It is L1 certified, but because of the G90T there are some issues because of which either on Netflix or on Amazon Prime you do not get support for HD video playback. Realme has acknowledged this. They have said it that there is a problem with MediaTek, so they haven't fixed it on the Realme 6. They fixed it on the Realme 6 Pro, but on the Realme 6 it's not fixed and you cannot watch HD content on those apps. But Xiaomi recently fixed it on the Redmi Note 8 Pro, even though it runs on the G90T, so I don't know what Realme is doing. So that's the only thing that I don't like on the Realme 6. If you're gonna stream a lot of content on Netflix and Amazon Prime, you probably would want to stay away from this phone. Another thing that I didn't like about this display is that it gets your fingerprints and smudges very easily. So Realme actually gives you a screen protector inside the box pre-applied on the Realme 6, but it gets scratched within a day or two. So I removed it, and after that I have been using this phone without a screen protector, but the problem is it gets all of the smudges very easily. The oleophobic coating on this phone is not as good as, let's say, the Xiaomi devices or even Realme's own Realme 6 Pro. So it gets smudged up very easily, and because you have the camera as well, I found myself wiping the front facing camera of this phone with my t-shirt very often because it used to get all smudged up and you used to get smudged up selfies. But once again, 90Hz refresh rate is a huge thing in this price segment, so if you want a phone with a high refresh rate, this is the only option that you have. Then let's move on to performance, because once again this is also one area where a lot of people are concerned about. You've got the MediaTek Helio G90T, which is a very controversial chipset and it's very notorious for overheating. So if I talk about my experience with the G90T, in day-to-day usage, it's actually been pretty good. Like I said before, it handles the 90Hz refresh rate very well. I haven't seen any major lags or slowdowns or anything like that. Even the memory management, day-to-day usage, everything's great on this phone. Realme has done a lot of good things with Realme UI. They have optimized it really well, and I personally did not face any compatibility issues or anything on Realme UI, and everyday performance is a breeze. The 90Hz display just makes everything a lot more smoother, and I don't think anyone will complain about the day-to-day performance of the Realme 6. Where people will complain about though is with respect to the PUBG performance on this phone. When Realme was, showcasing the phone in the launch event, they were all about how this phone can hit the extreme frame rate, it can give you 60 FPS and things like that, but actually the thing is it doesn't. G90T is not a flagship rivaling chipset, and if you're gonna play hardcore PUBG, you can expect a frame rate around 40 to 45. If you're gonna do hot drops, if you're gonna rush on enemies, the FPS is not gonna go above 45, so don't get your hopes up high. I have done a dedicated PUBG review of the Realme 6, so you can go watch that, but if I compare it with the competitors, it's better than the Redmi Note 9 Pro, and it almost gets very close to the Redmi Note 8 Pro. The only reason why I would recommend the Redmi Note 8 Pro over the Realme 6 for PUBG is that first of all, Note 8 Pro is slightly more optimized, and the second reason is overheating. The maximum temperatures that I recorded on the Note 8 Pro were around 45 degrees after an hour of PUBG, but on the Realme 6 it almost went as high as 48 degrees. So that's another area of concern. This phone does not get any specific cooling systems. So if you're gonna push the phone a lot, if you're gonna play PUBG for like 1.5 to 2 hours, the temperatures can go up to 48 degrees. So do keep that in mind. But the performance of the Helio G90T is good. I didn't face any major issues with it. But where there's a little bit of a problem with the Helio G90T is in terms of optimization. So first of all, if we talk about the battery life was okay. Now the Realme 6 and the Realme 6 Pro, both of them get a 4300 mAh of battery, but on the Realme 6, I could get a screen on time of roughly 7 to 7.5 hours, whereas on the Realme 6 Pro with a similar kind of usage, I could get a screen on time of up to 9 hours. So that's the difference between these phones. The G90T is based on 12 nanometer process, so it's power hungry. It consumes more power than your 720G or the 730G. So because of that, you won't get as good of a battery life as the Realme 6 Pro or the Poco X2 or the Redmi Note 9 Pro, but the battery life is still good on this phone. You can easily get through one single day and sometimes even more if you're not a very heavy user. So I wouldn't worry about the battery life on this phone. It's good, it will get you through one working day, but it's not as good as its competitors. But the good part is that you've got 30 watt charging on this phone, so a single charge from 0 to 100 will take only around 58 minutes, which is great. I have done a charging test of Realme 6, Note 8 Pro, Note 9 Pro, M31, so you can go watch that video. It was very evident that this was one of the fastest charging phones of all of the phones in the competition. So while the battery life is not as great as the competitors, it charges really fast, so that makes up for it. So the battery plus the charging combo is not going to be a problem on the Realme 6. Another major area of concern with this phone is the cameras, and the Realme 6 actually gets a really nice camera setup. Realme has bought in their 64 megapixel quad camera setup to this phone. So basically you've got your main sensor, then you've got a wide angle lens, then you've got a portrait lens, and you've also got a macro lens. So if I compare the performance of the Realme 6 with the Redmi Note 8 Pro, both of them have got the Helio G90T and a similar camera setup. The Redmi Note 8 Pro still outperforms the Realme 6 if we compare the stock camera. And even if we compare Google camera, the Realme 6 does not get a proper working Gcam. There is an app that kind of works, but it's not properly working, whereas the Redmi Note 8 Pro, because of the insane developmental support, has got a very good working Gcam. So right now, while the Realme 6 cameras are good, they are not better than the Redmi Note 8 Pro. If I compare it with the Redmi Note 9 Pro, with the Redmi Note 9 Pro, if you compare stock cameras, the back camera on the Realme 6 is better. But Redmi Note 9 Pro once again gets a really good Gcam support. So when you use Gcam, Redmi Note 9 Pro and the Realme 6, both of them are even. So the camera performance on the Realme 6 is not extraordinary. It's good, it will get the job done, but it's not the best camera phone in this segment. I have done a camera comparison between Note 9 Pro and the Realme 6. So if you want to know more about that, go watch that video here. But the point is, the camera performance is not that great. The selfie camera is also decent. The Note 9 Pro clearly beats the Realme 6 in terms of the selfie camera performance. What I didn't like is that for some reason on the Realme 6, you cannot take portrait mode selfies at full resolution. It downgrades to 4 megapixels, whereas the competition can click it at 12, 13, 16, 20, whatever the resolution is, they can click it at that resolution, but the Realme 6 for some reason only clicks at 4 megapixels. So there are these little things that Realme has not optimized. And even when I talk about video, the Redmi Note 9 Pro clearly has a lead in video department in comparison to the Realme 6. So overall, the cameras on the Realme 6 are not that exciting. That coupled with the fact that there is not that great Google camera development here, the camera performance would be decent at best. It's not the best camera in this segment, and if you want the best camera phone, probably look out at the Note 8 Pro, Note 9 Pro, or even the Realme XT or the X2, because those phones have a good working Gcam APK. But don't get me wrong, the camera performance is not bad, it's just that it's not the best. So if Realme can do some optimizations with the camera, that would be great. Apart from that, if I talk about some other things like the build quality, this phone is made out of plastic. So no glass body like the Realme XT or even the Redmi Note 8 Pro or the Redmi Note 9 Pro. A lot of people have issues with it. I personally always use my phone with a case, but every time you're going to use your phone without the case, you will definitely feel that difference. This phone does not feel as premium as the Redmi Note 9 Pro, but it still looks good. Realme does some very cool things with the design of their phones, and even the Realme 6 is a very good looking phone. It's a different topic of discussion though that every Realme phone looks very similar now, and it's high time that they overhaul their designs with the new devices. If you take a physical overview, on the bottom you've got the headphone jack, you've got your Type-C port and a loudspeaker. The fingerprint sensor has now been shifted from the back to the side of the phone, and here it's integrated with the power button, very similar to the Poco X2 and the Redmi Note 9 Pro. It's fast, it works, it's very efficient, I've got no complaints with it. And this phone misses out on an IR port and an LED notification light. The Redmi Note 9 Pro gets both of these things. You've got dual SIM support here, there is a separate SD card slot, voice over Wi-Fi supported, voice over LTE supported, and even if I talk about the earpiece quality, the loudspeaker quality, everything was satisfactory. Nothing was bad. I didn't notice any issues with any of those things, so that's great. In day-to-day usage, this phone is not going to give you problems. Realme UI also surprisingly has been a refreshing change on this phone. I wasn't a fan of ColorOS, but Realme UI now I think I can bear with it. Although I still don't like that different colorful interface, I still think it's a lot more smoother and optimized in comparison to ColorOS. If I talk about the situation on ads on the Realme UI, I did see a couple of ads when I was installing apps and things like that, but you can go to settings and you can turn this off. So that's great. And even if I talk about the browser app here, well, it's not as bad as Xiaomi, but sometimes you do get some weird ads, but it's not as bad as Xiaomi. But still, I would recommend you to use Chrome and disable this browser app because it will send you unnecessary notifications and all of those things. So just stay away from these apps. Now, all of these manufacturers are, going towards putting ads in their phones. So we have to do a couple of steps to disable them. But apart from that, I didn't notice any major issues with the phone. I had just one issue with the video recording on this phone. I had mentioned it in my camera comparison, but it looks like Realme with the latest update has fixed that. So that's great. One other thing that I would like to mention is that the developmental support on Realme devices has never been as good as Xiaomi devices. So if you're someone who likes installing Gcam or you like playing around with the custom ROMs, you want to root your phone or things like that, Realme is not the way to go. You have to go with Xiaomi phones because the developmental support is much better there. So I just thought I would mention it because a lot of you guys are enthusiasts like me and you guys like trying out Gcams, custom ROMs and things like that. So do keep that thing in mind also when you make your decision. So then the question is, would I recommend the Realme 6 or not? Well, honestly, it completely depends on you. The thing is, I cannot completely recommend or not recommend the Realme 6. It's a really good phone. Realme has done some very cool things with it. But the thing is, it has its own fair share of flaws. Some of the flaws of this phone are that the camera performance is not the best in the segment. It has got its overheating issues kind of on extended periods of gaming. Then apart from that, there is that wideband L1 issue, which there is no timeline that when it's gonna get fixed. And the build quality is not the best in the segment. So if I compare it with some other phones like the Redmi Note 8 Pro, apart from the 90Hz display and the faster charging, the Redmi Note 8 Pro is better than the Realme 6 in almost every aspect. And even if I compare it to the Redmi Note 9 Pro, the Redmi Note 9 Pro once again has better build quality. It offers you a better display because it recently got the HDR support and all of those things. It offers much more battery life. The camera performance with Gcam comes really close to this phone. So ultimately, the choice is yours. The Realme 6 is not a bad phone. If you want to buy this phone, I'll wholeheartedly recommend it. In fact, if you want to buy a phone to experience that 90Hz display and have a really good gaming performance, Realme 6 is the way to go. No other phone in this price bracket offers you a 90Hz display and a fast charging that this phone does. So if you want to go ahead with Realme 6, you can go and buy it. But I would just ask you to consider other options also like the Note 8 Pro, Note 9 Pro, and even the Realme 6 Pro and the Poco X2. In fact, if you can extend your budget a little bit by 2-3,000, I think Poco X2 and the Realme 6 Pro make a lot of sense. So do consider those phones as well, but the Realme 6 is not a bad phone, and if you are hell bent on buying this phone, you can go ahead and buy this phone. You're definitely gonna be happy with it. So that's my review of the Realme 6. If you guys liked it, then please hit the like button. If you guys have any more questions, the comment section is all yours. Ask all of your questions and I will reply to them. You can also follow my Facebook, Twitter and Instagram page for some more behind the scenes content. A lot of reviews are coming to the channel very soon, including the M31, the Realme 6 Pro and a lot of other flagship phones. So if you're not subscribed yet, do consider hitting the subscribe button and pressing the bell icon. That's it for now. Thanks for watching and I will be back in your notifications very soon. Peace.